Alrighty, it's catching up with last night. Adrian, Jim, remotely, Christian, Hans van Brun, morning, Cohen. Alright, geez, trying to get my voice cleared out here. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to push your voice out beyond the back of your throat. It's surprisingly, yeah, it's something that you have to practice when you're doing videos. Otherwise, if you keep talking at the back of your throat and you just sort of like go back like this, and it becomes very difficult for people to understand you. But forcing yourself to talk through out of your mouth is surprisingly tricky. Especially when you're concentrating on things, you tend to retract back into yourself and don't express yourself clearly. Like, I even know when I look back on my videos, at times I can tell, and it's like, man, I cannot even understand myself. So I don't know how anyone else can. Hello from Guam. Alright, so this is the unofficial Mac board that we were trying on last night, and we initially had it coming up on the Chipmunk, but then we did some rework, we washed it a bit, and all of a sudden it stopped working, like, at all. Other than, I think it was about 23 milliamps of current draw. And we could see over the board it was covered with a lot of junk, like just combination of flux and old liquid trash and whatnot. So it's been through the ultrasonic now, and we're just going to have a look over the board. Nicely commented there, Jim. Okay, so this has been through the ultrasonic cleaner now. I didn't do anything to it, I just basically threw it in there. It's 5 minutes aside, about 55, 57 centigrade. And the cleaning solution that's in there now is a little bit old, so it is losing some of its ability to displace the flux. I've just noticed now that that's actually got to burn that sort of protective area there. That's been burnt by high temperature, and I don't believe that was me. Hey Teresa, you got your kiddo repairing the switch light. Oh, that's good. Good to get him started. So I'm quite happy with the ultrasonic cleaner. It's a nice 22 litre or about 4 gallon unit. Okay, that resistor there looks a little dodgy. The SMC has been replaced by the looks of it. But if you were here last night, you'd appreciate that this is looking... flip's sake. Looks like someone hasn't got the... There we go. Kind of curious why it isn't running my... I just have to check my compass system. Yeah, compass system is not running. Okay. Let me just start that up. Could not find the compass chip. Interesting. Okay, let me just try that again. It's going to be a bit loathsome if I... Let's see, the multimeter is working. The power supply is working. Maybe I've inadvertently disconnected the compass cable somehow. Because I can understand if I lose all of my USB services, but this time I've just lost the compass, nothing else. Just trying to find another port that I can use. Any port in a live stream storm. Okay. Okay, we're back up. Looks like it was the... yeah, kind of weird. Alright, well, let's go back over. Anyway, what I was saying is that there's that resistor and that resistor. They look a little bit sus on the SMC. But yeah, overall, you can see that the board is in a substantially cleaner state than what it was previously. You can actually see the board. There's no real flux everywhere or anything. Yeah, I don't do phone calls, sorry. It's just... it's very difficult for me to do phone calls. Okay, there is actually surprisingly large amount of flux there. That's about the only spot where it doesn't seem to have come off. And it may have been that it was just so supremely caked up there that it didn't have a chance. And of course the backlight is misbehaving as well. Yeah, we knew when we were checking it last night that was in a pretty bad state. Morning, Michael K. Alright, so let's see what we've got now. Well, I'm going to put the fan in just to see if the spin behavior is how I want. Okay, so we've got our 18 volts. Alright, spin behavior is not how I want. That's interesting. And it's not really fully up, so we've only got 300 milliamps being drawn, and we've got no fan spin. Damn it. Wasn't it the other week? It was like last week or the week before that we had this issue. And yeah. Okay, so if we're not getting a fan spin, even though we've got SO and we've got 5 volts, then it means probably the PWMing is not right. Hey Chris. Hey Harry and Donna. I'll just bring up the board view and schematic. So the fan connects in here. So if we do have 5 volts, they'll be up here, but we're not getting any fan. That may mean we're not getting any PWMing, which means probably the SMC is cactus in that section, or something's wrong there. And it looks like it goes to that pin, which is buried deep. We do have a test pad here that we can check to see if we get any kind of voltage. What's this? Q6060 is probably the MOSFET. Yes, it is. Alright. So we'll check up here at Q6060 because it's just by the fan connector and see if we're getting any sort of voltage at all. We won't be able to see the pulse, the individual pulses, but the multimeter will tend to effectively be a low pass filter. And so if we show a voltage, we'll know we are getting some sort of pulses there. Funnily enough, it's much easier for me to do it like this simply because of the fact that I can always turn off the stream. Yeah, at any time that I feel like I've gone in too deep or I'm feeling uncomfortable or anything like that, I can just simply switch off. And that's the advantage that I have. So we're going to measure just down here while we're running to see if we get any sort of signal. So yeah, it's easy to be a little more public when you know you can just walk away. But when it comes to, I suppose you can do that with a phone call as well, although in my case, the phone call situation is more about my hearing loss. Okay, so we have pretty much nothing coming out of there. So 3.78 millivolts, it's effectively nothing. Check that we do have 5 volts. Okay, 3.3, I think that's going to be the tack. Quad display. Yeah, that's the tack. So that's fine. Let's see, 5 volts. Where's 6010? Okay. Let's check that we've got 5 volts on that filter. I think that's hidden under here. We can just see it at least. And we do indeed have 5 volts. So there's a couple of options. Well, we don't have any tax. We don't have any PWM. So that sort of means nothing's going to happen. Now, I could pull that high with, say, a 100k resistor or something, just to see if we can get the fan to spin. So what we'd be doing is, okay, so this is an N channel, so we'd have to bring this up high. No, sorry, this here up high. Just going to check that we've got voltage here, because if we don't have voltage here, then it doesn't matter what comes in on that fan pin, it's not going to work. So 6061, that's going to be the other side of that resistor. Okay, so what if here? We do have 3.3 volts there, so that's fine. So yeah, it's basically looking like it's going to be the SMC at fault here. Yeah, it is a little weird having daylight outside. Just contemplating how I'm going to do this. I think we might just tackle the SMC. That's the way to tackle it. But we'll have a look at the various little... There's actually a lot of damage here, now that we're looking up close. Hey Kenny. Hey 3X. That's just barely holding on. That physically on the exterior looks damaged. It may be okay, but it is... Okay, that's just holding on. That's just holding on. They're all in a pretty awful state, so I may just replace them. Just easier to do that. Likewise with some of these caps here. So that one there is in a particularly bad state. That's not too bad, it's just a little bit of surface corrosion, but definitely this one here, it looks a bit more damaged overall, I think. Yeah, maybe not. No, look, certainly the resistors are. Was that damage on that cap? No, it's just a bit of junk. Well, it's just, you can always try and see how you feel about doing it live. Some people much prefer to do pre-recorded, some people prefer to do live. It's one of those things where I think you just give it a shot and see how you go. I'm genuinely curious why I'm not getting any tack out of output. What I might do is get a board that I know works and test it and see what its tack line output is. I have no idea if you work or not. Like, you take people like, say, Jason Vilna. He does entertaining edited videos, but he avoids with a passion the... Okay, you're not spinning. Fantastic. Is this dead fan? Could it be? Do both of these have the same... Oh no, that's a blinker. Maybe that fan's dead. That'd be a laugh. We'll get another one. There's a couple of boards that I'm fairly sure work. Say fairly sure. Yeah, I can't be 100% sure. And surprisingly, fans seem to be a little bit absent right now. At one stage I had more fans than I could poke a stick at, as they say. And now, it's quite a different situation. Okay, they'll be in the other workshop. That's for a 1369, but it probably will work. That one's got crosses all over, which means it's a bin job. Well, we'll try the 1369. Oh, heat sinks. Hey, Micromage, Christian. Okay, that fan is dead. In the bin. Sometimes just throwing things in the bin and not fixing them up or not, like putting them aside, like I'll fix that later or I'll investigate while it's not spinning later, can be more detrimental to your work efficiency than anything else. Because you will forget about it, and then you come back to it later and go, oh, a fan, and then it will send you down another rabbit hole again, because you failed to discard it as a faulty piece of equipment. Now, I know we are here to try and fix things, but sometimes you have to... That's a laugh. What are the chances that that was a dead fan, and yet it legitimately is also dead, as in it has no drive? What are the chances? Okay, let me plug this one back into that other board again. Hey, Lexi. Let's see. What a question for me. Mended Australia. Don't the hands sweat? Yes, the hands sweat, but honestly, you just replace them periodically, like every usually half hour or so if you have to. Depends on the environment you're in. If you're in an air-conditioned room, it's not so bad. During high summer, it is actually a little bit intolerable. But once you get used to seeing the trash that is on boards, you don't want to ever not wear gloves again. It does take some getting used to. There is a certain degree of dexterity loss. But it's a trade-off. I mean, when you see the junk under the microscope that you are touching. Okay, so that spins. That's definitely a working fan on this board. Funnily enough, though, I have got no 5VSO there. That's weird. Is there something maybe wrong with my... Having known good working equipment to test with is vitally important, and I'm sort of stuck in the netherworld right now with this fan. I don't know what to trust. Yeah, it definitely does not spin it. Interesting. I'm going to try on one more board. But they're both 165s as well. Thank you, TCB Home. Thank you for the €2. And certainly one thing is, never assume that an unlikely scenario is improbable. Oh wow, you're not even running. Maybe you're 34, 37. You don't even power up? Oh, I see. I can see I've got blue rework goo on that. Okay, this is my 1175 board. This is the one that we upgraded to 8 gigs and that we know works. So we know this board works. It'd be easier if I just went and got one of my known working 1466s and took the fan out of it, but that means pulling one of them apart. Okay, fan spins, lights come up, current is good, so we know that combination works. So we know, therefore, that those fans go straight in the bin. We know that board's a donor board, or it just needs fixing. I believe I made this a donor board because it has a substantial amount of liquid damage up here, so it's not really worth trying to repair it for what it is. And yeah, this is our good 8 gig board. Hey, Hectic. Whereabouts in Australia are you, Mendit? Plug it in one more time. If it still doesn't spin, then I am going to... my first inclination here will be to suspect the SMC as to why it's not spinning the fan. Because it's got power. If I take that MOSFET off, it should force it to go full speed, I think. Ah, Lexi, that's a violent way of doing things, except I don't really want to try and take that off because it's surrounded by soft plasticky parts. And if we get the soldering iron in there, well, we know what's going to happen. It's going to melt something. And that feels pretty secure. Very unlikely for that little MOSFET to pop and die. So yeah, I think we just go straight for the SMC situation. The big problem that I'm considering is that I'm not even sure if I've got another 165 handy. I can put a 3437 on there just to test. Hey Sonia, evening, so good afternoon rather. Maybe I should fix up those resistors first. Yeah, we'll do the resistors first. And of course this board is going to have to be cleaned again after I'm done with it. It's just, yeah, it's just what you got to do sometimes. You can always try and reflash the SMC afterwards. Like, because you can get it to boot as a 165, you can then get it to, you can just reflash it using the booted system. It's not something I've really done, so, but I know it can be done. I actually haven't done a lot with the right to repair for Australia. I'm sort of occupied doing all this kind of thing. Okay, is that a hole in there? I think it's just junk. Unfortunately, we do have other people working on the whole advocacy. 1, 2, 3. Guess we all play to our strengths. See you next time, Harry. Just get some donor board parts. maybe not those ones. That looked a little damaged. Those ones look pretty good. Yeah, I'm not going to bother reflowing that because I've still got 2 more to put down, so there's no point. That resistor is already sort of tacked down onto the solder pads, so I can just move the others in, and then when I've brought the final one across, we can do a proper reflow. And that way you don't spend too much time cooking up the board. I'm going to get rid of this one up here. This is an important one at the top. It's a regular one for getting corroded, so if you do see any damage on it, certainly consider replacing it. If you're wondering what these great big pads are up here, they are for the on-off button. So if you want to simulate pressing the on-off button on the board with the board just out on its own, you short those pads out. There's also another pair on the other side. So I can flip it over, there's the other pair there. Alright, well I don't know if that's going to change anything, but I thought that it was a low-hanging fruit that had to be changed over anyway, so it's worth a shot. Yeah, still no spin. It is interesting, we're drawing 300 milliamp, which is a bit of an odd figure. I'll just check to see what 342 is. I suspect it will be 342. I think that if the SMC has a fault, it's not... Okay, 344, we're running a little on the high side there. It does make me a little bit nervous. I don't like it when I see that. Let's see. RTCs, 3, everything's running just fractionally higher. But we are getting into SO state. Okay, so we're just going to go for an SMC replacement. PP bus was 1256 or so on this one when I last checked. Oh, sorry, not 1256, 8.58 or something like that. Colossal excess of flux here. This is getting close to Rossmann levels of flux insanity. Hey now. Like, there was a fair bit of junk under this SMC before we put it through the ultrasonic, so there may still be some junk that we weren't able to displace. We'll see. Well, it looks pretty clean. The ultrasonic did its job. We'll keep this aside because if we replace it and we still have the same behavior, then we know that the SMC might actually be okay. And given that it's a 165, we do want to retain them if possible. Ah, my wife is out there doing mowing. Better check that she's got a battery with plenty of power though. Well, I guess I'll find out. Yep, off she goes, mowing the yard. Fortunately, because it's a electric mower, battery powered electric mower, it's very easy. She just puts the pack in, no dramas, away she goes. Mender, can you explain the function of the SMC? Basically, it's a sort of all-round general purpose system management controller. It looks at all the sensors and the states, and it manages things from there. I can't really give a truly good description, to be honest. I think the rough equivalent on a laptop would be the EC, like on a PC laptop, like an EC. Needless to say, without it, you can run with a dead SMC. There is a SMC bypass mode on MacBooks, but everything runs really slowly because it's like, well, I don't know, it's kind of like driving blind, so it falls back to a very slow, cautious type behavior, runs the fans at full speed, all that sort of thing. I'm gonna see if I have got, maybe I've taken a 165 SMC from somewhere else. No, stuff it. Just grab a 3437 pole. An interesting way to prove or disprove. There's a bit of a niggling, arguing going on YouTube, not YouTube, Facebook the other day. Someone saying that you can do 3437 versus 165 interchange, no problem. And a lot of us are sitting there going, well, we found that you can't interchange them. I mean, they will boot, but they don't run properly. So this will be an interesting way of finding out whether that's just a widely believed myth or whether there really is actually no problem. Guess we'll see. Alright, better get my Grim Reaper out. Oh, you're welcome, Mend it. Crazy people driving crazy fast on our road. Sometimes it's easy to get this stuff off, other times it's an absolute nightmare. Fortunately, this one's kind of like an in-between. It's neither been a nightmare, but it's also not been the easiest either. Okay, it's off. Just put a little more flux underneath. And now we come in and we proceed to do the extraction. There's always a gamble that the SMC that you're extracting is actually going to be faulty as well. This one's taking a little longer than I like to come out. Oh, there we go. So we just have to get that edge bonding off. As it cools down, it reverts back to being a fairly hard to remove substance. So we're kind of hoping we can get it off just quick enough. So I'm going to have to give it a little bit of heat. Full wave rect, I think it's just simply to hold it into place, to stop shock loads from shifting it too much, damaging things. We're just going to go along and pick up all the lead-free solder and replace it with the more chip-friendly leaded solder. This is going to be an SMC that's reluctant to take fresh solder. These are a real nuisance. You can see some of those pads have got that sort of flat grey matte overtone look. You've got to break through that. It's a bit frustrating because just when you think you've got them all, you notice another 5 or 6 appear. Okay, fortunately these ones aren't being too stubborn. That's everything. And then once we've done that, we walk along the whole SMC with a big blob and try to get a consistent thickness, a consistent layer of little dimples on there. Alright, now we can actually wash it off. Now, even though we're going to put balls on the top of it, normally when you put balls on a chip you have to remove all traces of existing solder on there. But we can get away with it on the SMC by just leaving those little dimples there. In part because the SMC uses some fairly large sizes, like 0.45 mil. If it was, say, 0.25 or similar, you may want to look at flattening it out better. Chuck it back like that. Yeah, that can work sometimes. I know some people who do it like that. I think there's some Canberra scammer guy that does it like that. And then he has the audacity to say that it's just like how Apple does. Simply because it's like, okay. It's clean enough. Alright, so that's the chip has been cleaned up enough now. I've got to get rid of all this flux and I've got to clean my stencil. And hopefully I can do a repeat from the other night where I finally managed to get my easy done behavior back again with the reballing of the SMCs, because I had a really nice style going, and then when I changed to the new hot air station, it just completely left me. It felt like Samson when he gets his hair cut. You know, I changed my hot air station, all of a sudden I was incapable of doing anything. Okay, so we've got to get all this junk out. Might just heat it up so that I can get a lot of that flux out without having to use RPA. That should be good enough. Yeah, Pedro, that's pretty much how it is, because I remember you were complaining that you're having an absolute nightmare with trying to get it to work the way I was getting it to work. And I was like, what is wrong with you? And then I went along and get this Atom, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, I'm like Pedro. I wasn't very happy about that. I was like, that's a pretty big fall from grace. Yeah, I'm getting too many fibers on this. That's annoying me. Ach, nee, man. Let go, let go. There we go. Okay. Okay, to make it easy so we don't have to use tape on the stencil, we just put in a couple of just two little corner balls. Come on, that's it. Now I'm stealing the ones down in the recess, the gaps of the holder here, simply because I know they're all 0.35s. Okay, that one's done. Now we can put our stencil on. And that's fairly warm. Burn the finger a little bit. Okay, We've got our vial of 0.35s. We now drown this in IPA. Boom, like that. And that was actually still pretty warm, so I might have to hit that again. There we go. And then we pour out our balls. That's way too many. Fortunately, we've got many hundreds of thousands of these. Oh, it looks like I might have been wrong. Maybe that actually was just enough. In fact, a slight shortfall. Yeah, a little bit more than a slight shortfall. Now I'm going to have to pour out a couple more. It's a bit deceptive when you pour them out, and it really does look like you have too many. I'm just going to have to add a little bit more IPA here. The reason why I use the IPA is because it greatly reduces the resistance of, or I should say, it greatly facilitates getting the free roaming ones to just fall into the holes. If you don't have the IPA, it is quite a challenge to get them to smoothly come out. Okay, so we've got 2 missing here still. 1, 2. Is that another one there? Oh wow, we've still got 4 up the top there. And my wife's working hard out in the yard still. Okay, that's looking good. Yeah, no, I don't like the glass over method. I've got my method. It works. Okay, so at this point what we do is we just heat up everything, and we need both the SMC and everything else to get up to pretty close to reflow temperature. So I'm running at 310 at the moment. The hot air is set at about 10%. Yeah, 10% airflow. So we're not really hitting it that hard in terms of really quickly or anything. It's just going to be a slow process. And we can tell that they get up to about the right point. You know what though? There is this ball here. Okay, it's just a large pad under there. Okay. It was just giving me the heebie-jeebies. It felt like it was standing up more than it should. Anyway, so yeah, we'll get it up to the point where the glossy look goes away. You start getting a bit of a matte finish. And that's when they're getting to the point, yeah, it's starting to happen here and there. But I'm going to let it go a little bit longer than I normally do, because I've found that seems to be more the trick for me. Okay, so around about now, and if I don't botch this up, it hopefully will be a win. And I can see the flux wicking its way all the way through. Okay, now I come back at the slow air again, and hopefully they don't go bouncing out like they are. Damn it. Pedro's here. Fortunately, if I just keep it slow and stay patient, they're not going to bounce too far, and they'll probably just drop back down into their holes. No. Goddamn, Pedro's here. I guess the main thing is don't panic. The reason why it's doing this is because there's too much flux, because I didn't let it get hot enough. When I don't let it get hot enough, the flux, it does wick out, but it doesn't wick out enough. So the layer that remains is too thick, whereas if you let it get hot enough, it gets the flux to the point where it's sufficiently low viscosity that it just runs very cleanly across. This is turning into a disaster. Way to go, Paul. Way to show everybody how you can do this. It worked so well last night again. I haven't had a chance to look at chat, I'm sorry. It's because I'm focusing on making sure that if anything pops out, I can relocate it before it gets out of hand. Yeah, this is a disaster. I have been looking at getting my CNC machine, and at least when I get my CNC machine, I can then mill a holding block like this synthetic rock, and then also put a hole in it so that I can put the soldering iron tip in, so we can do this process using the bottom heat technique without the cumbersome nature of the existing system, the existing heater block that I have. So I'll gain the convenience of loading up the balls like I have with this, but with the controllability of the heater block. Yeah, this is a downright freaking nightmare. This is terrible. Note this down as being a terrible SMC experience. Okay, they're starting to... Yep, they're all finally starting to get there now. If you've got the patience, it can work. But it shouldn't normally take this long. I'm going to cut this out of the video, I think. No, I'm not really, but... You get tempted to cut it out of the video and replace it with the one that worked the night before. Kind of like cooking shows. Alright, here's one I did earlier. Vectec, yeah, I have actually considered using diluted IPA, diluting the flux with IPA. But I think honestly, I just need to spend the money to get the milling machine and do it that way. Well, at least none of them came off, so that's good. They all look actually pretty good though. And that flux will be used to do the, when I put it back on the board. Getting the alignment right of this is a bit of a nightmare. It's pretty close. Funnily enough, you actually don't want it to be perfect. If you have a perfect alignment, you don't get to see it slide into place, and so you're not really ever sure if it truly did reflow. Oh, too much flux. Just need to put that back down in the right place. Close enough. What happens when you get too much flux is that the flux will bobble up underneath the chip and it raises the chip up, and because the hot air is not coming down perpendicular onto the chip, that slight pressure, well, that's a big slide. Okay, it is in place now, so I can do this. Okay, and see how it's moving around a little bit, wiggle wiggle. It's all good. Yeah, no, I'm not very good at doing it that way. If I leave my hand on the, yeah, if I'm holding the chip down with a bit of pressure, I almost always will skew it off. Anyway, so that looks pretty good under there. Hey, how's the moth? Yeah, we're just going to cool this off. Put it into the extractor. I'll do that hold and melt technique for a couple of things, like, just caps, resistors, or maybe even QFNs or something like that. But for bold chips, I'm not really game to do that. More often than not, I tend to botch it up. Okay, mend it. Hope the steak worked out. Let's see if this even works. Hopefully you don't get a Dave Jones wah 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 ending. It's also possible that maybe the connector's no good. Maybe I didn't solder it properly. Who knows? Hey, fan spin. So it was a dud, SMC. Because now the problem we've got is, well, I suppose I can use this as a attempt to try and flash update it. And we've got a green blink, so we are alive. The board is fixed, but it is running the old SMC. Now, unfortunately, the tool that I would normally use to test all the diagnostics and things like that, which is the MRI or Mac Resource Inspector boot stick, I do not have the modified one that'll allow it to test the 165 boards. What will happen is it will actually crash and lock on the 165. So I'm going to have to instead put this into a chassis and just do it the old way. Or rather say the alternative way, which is to boot it into macOS off my USB stick and then just go along and check everything. Steve, I just felt like doing something now while I was waiting for dinner to be made. And, you know, sometimes I give a chance for people who don't normally catch my streams to catch one. Mimi, I have an iMac 21/7 2015. I have to change the new SSD to Monterey. CPU is very slow with fan on max. 2015 one though. You normally don't have that issue. I'm not sure what would cause that. I just did one the other day and it runs very fast without any troubles. So yeah, obviously there is a problem there, but I don't know what to suggest for you. Some people would say that it's because the hard drive is reporting temperature issue. Go get a temperature reporting program like HD Info or something like that, and see if it's saying that the hard drive is extremely hot or something like that. Yeah, hectic, that would tend to happen with that sort of a jump. I guess the thing is, yeah, once you can get them to boot, then that's apparently all you really need to... If you can achieve that, then you should be able to flash them to the new style. Oh, every single time I grab this one, I forget that I don't have a keyboard flex. One of these days I'll reinstall that keyboard flex. I'm going to plug the camera in on this one. I want to see if it comes up. Yeah, Elita is out there doing the hard yards, literally. Although, as I was saying before, that particular mower does make light work of the task. Because, you know, you just drop the battery in, pull the lever, and away you go. Why is this sitting up? Oh, right, I see. So far as mowing the normal dramas that you get with mowing, which is trying to get the damn things to start or get them to run properly, or having to race down to the petrol station to get fuel and things like that, that's all eliminated. I'm very, very happy with the electric mower that we have. Do you know if it's possible to swap T2, by the way? You can swap the T2s, but you will lose all the data. That's the word on the street. This is going to give me the crap where it's not going to give me a display on this one. Alright, maybe we don't have backlight output because remember we had all that damage, so I'm thinking this still has backlight issues. We can determine that, well, two ways. That is not an illuminated apple. So we will now plug in an external screen and see if that comes up. This is a nice thing about the 1466 is it does actually have a Thunderbolt port off the back here. Okay. I may have to disconnect the display. We'll see. Yep, there it goes. That's booting Apple logo. Alright, so we have a backlight problem here. Most likely. Pardon me. Yeah, actually I might do the folder test as well. So what I'll do is I'll plug that in, hold down Option, stick a torch through it. Because I don't have a torch, but anyway. Just to be sure it is actually getting data. Yeah, I can just see the... Okay, so we do have data, we just don't have backlight. That's no problem. As I said, we did see that on the board earlier. We just simply forgot about it until this point. Hey, Keith. Yeah, Mimi, I can't help you more than I already have. Unfortunately, that's going to require you to go digging around and finding solutions in appropriate places, such as the Rossmann forums or Discord or something like that. Not really capable of dishing out help at this situation, and I don't do email or similar support. Not unless you're a paying customer, I'm afraid. I mean, I do a lot of support work for a lot of people, but not like that. Garai, I get them from eBay. They're just simply cooking, what do you call it, silicon high temperature cooking mats. That's all they are. Nothing special. Okay, so we've got backlight issues. There's a few possibilities. We're going to go continuity mode initially. See if the fuse is okay. Fuse is good. Alright. Okay, so what we're going to do now is switch to diode mode. We're going to check the diode mode at the feedback trace, which is the most common thing to burn out. That's this one here. And that's 0.59. Scratch my nose. Flip it over. Let me see what they are here. 0.59. Okay, so looking troublesomely good there. Hey, sweetie. Ah, dinner. Okay. Alright then. Alright, dinner is done, so I am actually going to scoot and go have my dinner, but I guess we'll do another stream later tonight, and we'll try and fix the backlight on this. So, thanks all for watching. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you later this evening when we do the backlight problem. Until then, take care. Catch you later.